This video describes how to knit a lateral braid, which you can see on this little cardigan I've made, is this bit that runs across. It looks a bit like a cast off, but it isn't. And it's a very neat way of separating one stitch pattern here, morse stitch, from another, which is good old stocking stitch. So, how do you knit a lateral braid? I have a piece of work here, which again, I've done a section of morse stitch, a couple of rows of stocking stitch just to make things clearer, but now I'm going to start the lateral braid. I'm working with 3 edge stitches, so I'm just going to knit those in the normal way, and when I've done so, I'll be starting the braid. So, the first thing you need to do is to make another stitch. You want an extra stitch on your needle, and I'm going to do that by picking up the loop from the stitch below, the first one on my left hand needle, and putting it onto my left hand needle. Now, having got it there, I'm going to ignore it for a minute, and instead I'm going to knit into the back of the second stitch on my left hand needle. So I'm going to knit that, bring my needle round to the front, knit the first stitch, the one that I just picked up, and then I'm going to let them both come off my needle at the same time. Now you might see a little sort of bulgy thing there which looks like a drop stitch but isn't. Just ignore it for the time being, it will disappear. Return the stitch you've just made onto your left hand needle and, excuse me whilst I sort my stitches out, literally repeat what you've just done until you've done enough lateral braid. So I'm going to again knit into the back of the second stitch, bring my needle round, knit into the front of my first stitch, let both stitches fall from my needle, and again I'm going to return the stitch I just made to my left hand needle. Show you one more time. I'm going to knit into the back of the second stitch, knit into the front of the first stitch, take both stitches off the needle at the same time, return the stitch to the left hand needle, once more into the back of the second stitch, into the front of the first stitch, both stitches drop at the same time, remove the stitch to your left hand needle, and you can see here the beginning of your lateral braid. And you literally just keep repeating that process for as long as you need to. In this case, it's for the whole row. So again, knit into the back of the second stitch, bring your needle round, knit into the front of the first stitch, let both stitches fall from your needle, take the stitch you've just made back to your left hand needle and continue until you're done. Right, I'm now nearly at the end of my row, and you can see my braid worked all the way across my stitches. I'm just going to show you what to do at the end. You will recall that at the beginning we made a stitch in order to start our braid. Now we're coming to the end. I've just got one more braid stitch to do. So just for the last time, move that stitch back to the left hand needle, knit through the back of the second stitch, bring your needle round, knit into the front of the first stitch, drop both stitches off the needle. In order to keep my stitch count even, I'm now going to return the stitch I just made to the left hand needle, and I'm going to knit it together through the front with the first of my edge stitches. That way my stitch count is the same as it was when I started. And that's it, it's all done. I have separated my stitch patterns by working my lateral braid all the way across the row, and I'm now ready to continue with whatever stitch you choose. That's how you knit the lateral braid.